Welcome back to the Inspiration Station and your Everyday Edge podcast. I'm your host, Mr. U. Glad to have you back in the building with us today. We are excited about the new year for one, and of course, all the things that are changing with our show, and just what we're hearing from you, the impact that I believe the show is making from what we're hearing from you guys. Thank you again for continuing to watch and listen, support our show. If you are on Apple Podcasts, and that's how you primarily hear us and see us, well, hear us more than anything. Definitely please leave a 5-star review of our podcast, The Inspiration Station. And of course, definitely follow the show and download the episodes if you get the opportunity. In the upper right-hand corner of your screen is a QR code that's going to lead you to all of our prior episodes of The Inspiration Station. All the prior and upcoming episodes, you can find those through that QR code. So we're excited about you following us. And of course, if you are a watcher of our show and our content, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, or wherever you enjoy your social media platform. I believe I can include TikTok and Instagram as well. So excited about the opportunity to join you again today. You will find an audio-only version of this episode as well, so you can follow it either by listening or watching or both. But I want to talk to you about basically a subject that every person, every believer, every leader has to deal with at some point or another. It's actually universal and it's unavoidable. That is going to be the topic of rejection. We all have to deal with it. And I titled this episode today, Rejected But Never Forsaken, Handling Rejection with Character and Peace, because one, it identifies what we're dealing with. And two, it tells us how to handle it. So I want to get into that and take the episode today. Hopefully it won't be very long, but thank you for taking the time to invest in us. I want to invest back in you guys for sure. So if you've ever been overlooked, ignored, betrayed, or undervalued in any way, this conversation is really for you. I'm not focusing on people who are people of faith, believers, people who love Jesus Christ. This applies to you whether you do that or not, because rejection finds us all where we are, at every water cooler and organization, club and platform, family dynamic, community. Rejection always seems to find us. So we're going to get into that today, because how you handle rejection reveals a lot more about your character than the decision that other people make about you. So be thinking about that. So if you are taking notes, a lot of our listeners love to take notes because they want to try to catch it, absorb it, go back to it later. Then we end up talking about it in the comments section or privately. So I'm excited about this topic, not because it's a great topic, but because it's a necessary topic, especially in the season that we all find ourselves in. So point number one, rejection is inevitable, but never personal. Write that down. Rejection is inevitable, but never personal. Let's use the example of Jesus Christ himself. Can't find a better example than him. Rejection is a part of life. Even he faced it. John 1:11 says he came unto his own, and his own received him not. When you think about his own, think about that from your standpoint. Step into those shoes just for a little bit. I know people hesitate to step into the shoes of Jesus because they feel like it's a place that is unattainable, I guess. Something that we just can't ever reach. And people live their lives like that, where they never even try to achieve the thing that he said we can do. Different story, different topic, different podcast. I get that. But think about John 1:11 here. Who is his own? Who is your own? Can you imagine that your family has family vacation they go on twice a year? They have cookouts and family gatherings for Thanksgiving and Christmas and the 4th of July and New Year's. Think about all of these things they do together as a family. Imagine if they didn't invite you. Imagine if you were not included. Imagine if you were locked out of all of the proceedings. Imagine they had a family text thread and your name was not in it. Massive family, but your name was just only in it. Even crazy Uncle Bob's name was in there, but your name was the only one that was not included. Think right now how that would make you feel. Even right now in this moment, if that was you. You probably can't imagine it because you're so great. You can't imagine your family not wanting you there. But just put that aside, put the greatness aside for a second, and just imagine that everybody, even your crazy Uncle Bob, is there, but not you. Imagine how that would make you feel. He came unto his own, but his own received him not. To receive in the Greek means to take to oneself, to embrace, to accept or acknowledge. What John was saying about them not receiving Jesus was that they refused to acknowledge his authority, his identity, even his purpose. They barely acknowledge his existence. That had to be painful. Whenever somebody is rejected and not received, that's what the rejection kind of speaks. We're going to get into what it really means, but that's what it feels like. That they don't see me. I'm invisible. They don't see my value. I'm not worthy of acceptance in their minds. But in his case, I believe that the people, his own, were unprepared to receive the truth. I have questions. I know we're going off a little bit, but that's what I do sometimes. I'm weary of people who have these massive fan bases. Everybody just loves them and surrounds them and catering to their every need, and not ever challenging them to elevate, to grow, to come up from where they think in their perspective and step into a new level of mindset, a new level of growth. I'm weary of people like that, because if the people around you are always prepared to receive everything you have to give all the time, it could mean a couple of different things. I'll let you figure that out, but it could mean a lot of different things, and most of them are not good. With rejection, people are not always rejecting you. You got to understand that, because that's really important, because rejection is a part of our lives, and we're going to see it. We're going to see it up close and personal often throughout the lifespan of our life. But sometimes they reject the assignment that you carry. I want to speak to the people who are not believers, or not so inclined. You don't read the Bible. You're not big fans of Jesus Christ and all things Christianity. And perhaps you're watching and listening to this show and you think, you know what? He's not talking about me. That's a lie. I'm talking right to you. They're inside of you. And this is something I'm not trying to preach to you. I'm just telling you something I really believe about you. I started a podcast for people just like you, because I believe that inside of you is greatness. Even if your mother said that you ain't going to be nothing, your dad said you was worthless, your family said you trash, I believe that there's greatness inside of you. And even if you have not acknowledged that yet, I believe it's still so. And what that means for me in talking to you today is that people might reject you in areas of your life, and you're wondering why. You're doing all the right things. You're being good. You're blending in well. You're compromised, and you're in with the rest of the crew, and you're doing what they're doing. You're walking like the rest of the ducks. When they quack, you quack. When they jump, you jump. But they still reject you. They still won't include you. You don't feel like you're welcome in their groups and in their circles. They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting what's inside of you. The greatness I was talking about a few minutes ago. The assignment. The greatness in your DNA that they can't see. Or maybe they do see it and don't want you there because of that. But you can't even see it. Long story there. We'll come back to that later date, later episode. Or if you want to talk about it deeper, shoot me a message. We'll schedule some time. We'll get into it. I don't have a problem doing that. Okay. Now, we heard about Jesus Christ, widely known as the Messiah, being rejected. God himself was rejected. 1 Samuel's in the 8th chapter. 1 Samuel chapter 8. The prophet Samuel came to Israel, and I should say in the reverse, Israel came to the prophet Samuel saying, you know what? We demand a king right now. Now, it was already common knowledge, at least to everybody in Israel, it should have been, that they already had a king. He was God, Yahweh, Jehovah. He was already the king that led them out of Egypt and into the promised land. They already had a king, but because they spent so much time watching other nations and looking at what they were doing, their perspective was skewed. It was warped. They saw what looked like prosperity, what looked like wholeness and happiness and good times. They wanted a king because they thought that king represented that. Maybe they felt unsafe and they felt like a king would give them security. I'm not quite sure what their mindset was, but nonetheless, these were times the Bible said that people were going after their own hearts and doing what they wanted to do. And there was no standard, no rules, no morality. People were doing whatever they wanted to do, and there was nobody to say differently. That's the time that this scripture was written in. So Israel, falling in line with the times, doing what the Joneses was doing, trying to keep up with them, they wanted to have a king. They told Prophet Samuel, demanding, not even asking, not even petitioning, they demanded, we want to be like the other nations. Give us a king like them. Samuel took it personally. I think he might want to slap somebody. I'm not quite sure. It felt like he was ready to slap somebody. I could be wrong. But God corrected him and says, they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me as their king. Look at what happened right there. That's in 1 Samuel, the 8th chapter, verse 7. Look at what happened there. He was so caught up in how he felt about the rejection, making it about him. God himself, the creator of everything, had to come in and say, they didn't reject you, man. Get over yourself. They rejected me as their king. I'm the one that they rejected. And whenever you walk, especially if you are so inclined and you understand who you are in your faith and who you are as a believer, if I'm talking to you and you're hearing me today, whenever you face rejection, and you probably already have, not sure how you handle it, but going forward, when you face rejection, understand that they're rejecting the king. They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting God. They're not rejecting you. It's not that your ideas are not good. They don't want it from you. Because next man can come through here with the same idea and say, oh, it's a great idea. Never heard that before. You sitting like, what? They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting him. The Hebrew word for rejected means to despise, to refuse, to cast off. This isn't about Samuel's worth. This isn't about your worth. It's about their unwillingness to receive what is inside of you. I really believe this is a key insight here I want to share. You're writing it down. This is a good place to start writing. Rejection often reveals misalignment, not inadequacy. There were many times that I can remember, where I wanted to be a part of a specific group. I was always present when they showed up. I was always there. I had people who were good friends of mine that was in a part of the group, but I was never invited. I was never wanted in those circles. They would do things in the city, and they would do things around town, and they would travel and do all kind of stuff. And this was before internet, and they were doing stuff, and I just wanted to be down. I felt like it was good for me to grow in that environment. I mean, my friends was over there. Why can't I be a part of it? And constantly and every single time, I was not included. And I realized down the line, that it wasn't because I was inadequate. See, that's what we think immediately when we have rejection. We think automatically, you know what? I'm not adequate enough. I'm not good enough. And rejection speaks that to us quite often, probably every single time, like clockwork. You are not good enough. But it wasn't because I wasn't good enough or I wasn't adequate. It was because that would be misalignment for me. I used the example previously of oil and water. Let's use that example again. I think it's relevant. Oil and water, obviously we know they don't work well together. You can try to throw water on an oil fire and tell me how it turns out for you. It's not going to go well. And it's not because oil is not valid and oil is not relevant and oil is not adequate. It's not that water is not valid and water is not adequate and water is not relevant. They are. They're relevant in their own ways, in their own spaces, in their own spheres of influence, if you will. But when you put them together in one container, they repel each other. Instantly, they push away from each other. They instantly separate from each other. You can shake that container as much as you want to, but as soon as you get tired and your hand and arm start hurting, and you get tired of shaking, they will move away from each other again, because something in their DNA does not mesh with the other element. They don't work well together. There's nothing you can do to make it work. It just doesn't fit. There's not an alignment between oil and water. That's how rejection is. It just reveals what obviously we probably can't control. We don't understand it a lot of the times, and we're just not ready for it. People aren't either. But rejection reveals that. It reveals alignment. And I found out down the line, a little while later, that group that I wanted to be a part of so bad wasn't good for me. It was a good thing they didn't want me, because I wasn't smart enough to not want them until down the line. But it was good that they didn't want me, because being a part of that would have been good for me. You find that kind of stuff out on the back end, but it's just good to know that, you know what? Rejection is not something that should break us. It should make us evaluate and think about things. Case in point, Point number 2, rejection can be a divine redirection. Ooh, I like that. The story of Joseph comes to mind. You can find his story, I think, from Genesis, the 37th chapter to around the 50th. But basically, his brothers rejected him and threw him into a pit. I mean, man, if you don't like somebody, just don't be around them, right? Don't throw him into a pit and sell him into slavery. Just ignore him. Put your earbuds in. Act like you don't hear him. You ain't got to throw him into a pit, but they went to the extreme with that. They rejected him big time. But I really believe, especially from his story, a story that I share a lot because it just resonates with me. Not that I was thrown in the pit as a child. It was just something that just resonate with the story for me. But rejection can be actually a symbol of God's protection and redirection. You don't think that kind of stuff until you're like, wow, you can't think about it in the moment because we see rejection as it being against us. But I really believe, and even through this story of Joseph, Genesis 37 through 50, I think it is, you can find the crux of the story there. I mean, the man was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, accused of attempted rape, and thrown in jail. And then become second in command to the greatest ruler or the most powerful ruler in the world. How do you get from a pit to a palace? It's incredible. But the reason how you can get there is simple, but not simple. The way you get from a pit to a palace is that there's a plan always calculated on your behalf behind the scenes that you can't see. If you go into a depression about the rejection because man didn't give you what you wanted and they won't let you into their nice little club, you miss the whole point. You miss what the plan is for you that's greater, and that you have to also trust that there is a plan that's greater for you than the one that you're chasing after so much. If you think your way is the best way and your intellect is the best intellect and what you think and do and feel is all that matters, well, you probably find yourself in a pit. But if you believe that there's a greater plan for your life, if you believe that there's something more for you than the minor, insignificant, mundane things we chase after sometimes, you might find yourself in a palace, something to look forward to. So when doors close and people walk away and opportunities vanish, you're not being punished. You're probably just being repositioned. Number 3, point 3. If you're still taking notes, point 3. The character test is hidden in rejection. Ooh, the character test is hidden in rejection. Rejection tests your character. Think about the times you got rejected. What came out? What came out of your mouth? If you're leading from a place of conviction, you probably know what came out of your mouth. If you're leading from a place of validation where you need people to approve you, or you need to please people, you probably have an idea what came out of your mouth then. Jesus didn't need the Pharisees' approval to heal the sick. He just did it. He didn't need the applause of his hometown, people clapping for him and lauding him as great to fulfill his purpose. He just did it. He walked in it. Mark 6:4 said that the prophet is not without honor, even in his own country. Your own people are the ones that cut you down, that say you're nothing. Because they watched you their whole life and they saw all of the bad and they saw all of the lowlights of your life. And they want to remind you so you can stay in your place instead of moving into the place that God said you can have. When others don't see your work or see your value, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with your vision. There's a problem with their vision. Let's look at point number 4. How do you overcome rejection without losing your peace? I want to get practical with a few tips to share with you guys. Number 1, reframe it spiritually, not emotionally. I know that's difficult because as soon as you get rejected, you're ready to haul off. You're ready to say something out of pocket. You're ready to step to somebody. And people have been known to give people 2 pieces in a biscuit when they get rejected. But that's the emotional response, not the spiritual response that we're talking about and we're advocating today, right? So how to do this? How do you reframe it spiritually? How do you reframe rejection spiritually? Number 1, and it's the only number for this, rephrase the question. Redirect the question. Ask the right questions. Don't ask why did they reject me. That's not important. The right question is, what is God redirecting me towards? What does he want me to see? I believe that when Joseph was inside that pit, dark, cold, and left alone, and I doubt he had a flashlight. So I'm sure he was in darkness all by himself for who knows how long. He may have asked, why did they reject me? He may have even asked, what is God directing me towards? He probably didn't. But if you're in a pit right now, if you're in a place that you consider darkness, you feel like you're a diamond and you're not being seen, you're not being heard, you feel like people just don't care if you're here or not. Stop asking, why did they reject me? Ask, what is God redirecting me toward? Ask him that. I believe that Romans 8:28 is your answer to hold you until God begins to speak and reveal some things to you. Romans 8:28 says all things work together for good to those who love God. We can't interpret rejection through our feelings. That'll never work out well for us. We know how our feelings are. Our feelings will get you off track and caught up in a whole bunch of stuff. We got to filter that stuff through faith. Point number 2, refuse to retaliate. Jesus was rejected, beaten, and mocked, and he said in Luke 23:34, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Forgiveness is strength under control. It's not weakness, it's strength under control. And character is proven by restraint. Number 3, remain rooted in purpose. David had all the reason in the world to go ham on Saul, his mentor, who had rejected him, and even tried to kill him on multiple occasions. He didn't quit serving. He kept fighting, honoring authority, trusting the timing of God. He may have felt forgotten, but he knew that faithfulness was the right answer. He was faithful at every turn, and it made him, in my opinion, one of the greatest kings, arguably in the biblical or any history. Your reward doesn't come from man, it comes from God. 4, renew your mind daily. Last point in point number 4. Point 4 in point number 4. Renew your mind daily. We already know that rejection always whispers you're not good enough. We got to be transformed by the renewing of our mind, make new again, renovate our mind. If you've ever been to a house that's been renovated or being renovated, you're going to see dust, wood, nails, screws, drywall, insulation, all kind of mess, metal. But that's just a picture of what is happening, but you can't see the other result, the end result. It's going to be a far more beautiful building. And we got to renovate our mind and clean that stuff out so we can get to that place. We got to be willing to do the dirty work, to be exposed, to have that mess and say, you know what? I'm willing to clean this up. And that's when we get into a place that's newly renovated and a better building, even in our own minds. All right. Point number 5. We got a few more left, and we're going to get you guys out of here. Point number 5. Keeping peace in turbulent times. Peace doesn't mean silence and not say nothing when you know you should say something. Peace, especially when you're walking through rejection, means stability. Isaiah 26:3 says, you will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you. Peace, again, in Hebrew is shalom. You heard that term before. Wholeness, completeness, nothing missing, nothing broken. When your peace is rooted in God's approval and not the approval of men, nothing can shake you. You got to stay grateful and stay anchored in truth and stay present in purpose. Keep doing what you're supposed to be doing and not being focused on being paralyzed like a victim, paralyzed by your pain, tossed around with emotion. Every time the wind blows, you got another feeling, another issue, another gripe, another complaint, more bitterness. Rejection is loud. We got to tune into the frequency of peace. Point number 6. Even God was rejected, yet he kept loving. I mean, we got to just reframe the pain. It's just as simple as that. The Bible says in Isaiah 53:3 that he was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief, considered worthless, despised by man, considered worthless. The Son of God was considered worthless by the world that he came to save. That's unfathomable and really hard to understand. But that's the mystery and the power and the awesomeness of the gospel. That he was considered worthless by the world that he came to save. Who considers you worthless in your world? Who do you think you can help but they don't want your help? Think about that in retrospect. That's really powerful. Because rejection didn't stop Jesus, so it can't stop you. And last point number 7. The rejected have responsibility. Now, we can't control rejection, but we can control our response. Can we all agree with that? Put that in the comment section. We can't control rejection, but we can control our response to it. When people reject your leadership, you got to keep leading, especially in love. When they reject your ideas, you got to keep on creating. Walk in integrity. When they reject your message, guess what? Keep speaking truth. Keep speaking grace. Keep speaking life. Are you trying to please man? Or are you more concerned with pleasing the everlasting eternal God, who is the only reason why you're actually here? Are you living for consensus, or are you living from a place of conviction? This kind of stuff matters. And it's at a place where we have to really begin to start looking at reframing the pain of rejection. We can't afford to get paralyzed by this. We don't have the time and the bandwidth and the capacity to be doing that. Rejection doesn't mean that you're unworthy. It just means you're being refined. Every one of us gets a no from man, sometimes multiple no's. 2025 was full of no's for me, for men. It's just opportunity to get a yes from God. The next time somebody walks away or they undervalues you and who you are and your purpose, maybe they misunderstand you and they just don't get you and they don't want to talk to you because they don't understand how you talk or your language. Don't internalize it. Interpret it. Think about Samuel's story from what you heard today. Think about Joseph's faith from what you heard today. Remember the endurance of Jesus to continue to keep preaching and leading, even though he was rejected and despised, considered worthless by the people he came to serve and work. Look at your circles in a whole different light. Look at your community in a whole different light. Look at your family in a whole different light. You might be rejected. You might have been feeling it for years. Now it's time to redirect. You could have been forsaken, but now it's time for you to walk in the favor. As long as your character is not, as long as your character is not put into the mud, but all of the other junk that people are trying to put on you, your destiny is going to be clear. It's going to be untouched. They're not rejecting you. Just to be clear, they're rejecting what's inside of you, the greatness inside of you. They're rejecting the God in you. So you got to stay in peace. You got to stay faithful and keep your character intact. Rejection is merely just redirection. You've been listening to the Inspiration Station and your Everyday Edge podcast. Rejected but never forsaken. Thank you again for listening to this show today. Thank you for following us on all of our social media platforms. If you are a YouTube fan, we have a channel at youtube.com They Call Me Mr. U. Please subscribe to the channel. You get a chance to see all of our episodes up front, see my face on here and some other friends of mine that we do some things together in collaboration. Or if you are a listener of podcasts more, jump over to Apple Podcasts, best place where you can follow our show and get the downloads for all of our previous shows and all of our content from our 3 exclusive moving podcasts. And on top of that, you can leave us a 5-star review. Let us know that you love our show, what you got from this episode, what you want to see going forward. I get those messages, so I'll be happy to check into it and see what you got going on. But happy about the conversations. If you have any questions or comments about the show, by all means, I am very happy to have those conversations with you. Excited to do that. In your upper right hand corner, don't forget, is a QR code. You can grab all of our episodes of the Inspiration Station from right there, both past, present, and soon to come. So thanks again for watching and listening. I'm Mr. U. This is the Inspiration Station and your Everyday Edge podcast. We are out of here. Have a good one.